Here's something almost no appointment has time to explain. Every night while you sleep, your kidneys are doing some of their most important work. They're filtering your blood, regulating your blood pressure, producing hormones that manage red blood cell production and bone health, and clearing the metabolic waste that built up during the day. And what you eat in the hour or two before bed has a direct measurable influence on how well that overnight process actually goes. Most kidney conversations focus entirely on what to remove. Less sodium, less potassium, less phosphorus. All of that matters, and none of it is being dismissed here. But there's an equally important and rarely discussed half of the equation: what you can actively add to support your kidneys while they work overnight. Tonight, I'm walking you through 8 fruits, all verified as kidney-friendly by the National Kidney Foundation, that deliver real antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, and kidney-supportive benefits specifically suited to nighttime consumption. Before we start, subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss videos like this. And drop me a comment. Tell me where you're watching from and what time it is right now. I read every single one. Stay with me through fruit number 8, because it comes with a catch almost no other video mentions, and it's information you genuinely need before you eat it. How your kidneys actually work. I'm Dr. Karen. I've spent more than 15 years in internal medicine, and I want to take 2 minutes to explain something that will make the rest of this video make more sense. Your kidneys are 2 fist-sized organs sitting just below your rib cage, on either side of your spine. Together, they filter roughly 200 liters of blood every single day, about 50 gallons, removing waste, excess fluid, toxins, and metabolic byproducts, and returning clean, balanced blood to your circulation. They also help control red blood cell production through erythropoietin, regulate blood pressure through the renin-angiotensin system, and keep your bones healthy by activating vitamin D. When people think about kidneys, they usually think only about filtration, but those other jobs are equally important, and overnight work touches every one of them. The National Kidney Foundation explains that potassium is an essential mineral that helps the body function properly, supporting your nerves, muscles, and heart to work correctly. However, people with kidney disease can experience dangerous elevations of potassium in the blood, a condition called hyperkalemia, if they consume too much, because damaged kidneys may not be able to remove the excess efficiently. Normal blood potassium sits between about 3.5 and 5 mmol. Once you cross 5.5, the cardiac risk begins to climb meaningfully. This is the fundamental tension in kidney-healthy eating. Your kidneys need antioxidants and anti-inflammatory compounds from food to reduce the chronic inflammation that drives disease progression. But many of the richest sources of those compounds, bananas, oranges, kiwi, avocado, are also high potassium foods that challenge a weakened kidney's ability to filter. The 8 fruits I'm covering tonight are the resolution of that tension. They deliver real kidney-supportive nutrition, antioxidants, vitamins, fiber, and anti-inflammatory compounds, without the potassium burden that makes other fruits risky in kidney disease. Let's get into all 8. Bedtime fruit number 1. Tart cherries. The first fruit is the most uniquely suited to nighttime consumption of anything on this list, and the research behind it comes from some of the most credible sources in U.S. kidney medicine. According to the National Kidney Foundation, tart cherries contain phytomelatonin, a plant-based antioxidant that may contribute to a healthy circadian sleep cycle. Sour cherries are specifically classified as a low-potassium food, with less than 200 milligrams per 3.5 ounces, contain only trace amounts of sodium, and are low in phosphorus. Cherries can be included in the diet for all stages of kidney disease. The DaVita Kidney Care database lists the per-serving profile as roughly 170 milligrams of potassium, 16 milligrams of phosphorus, and 0 milligrams of sodium, a profile that is hard to beat for evening use. Here's why this matters so specifically at night. Your kidneys help regulate blood pressure partly through a rhythm tied to your sleep cycle. Blood pressure is supposed to drop during sleep, a pattern called nocturnal dipping. When sleep is disrupted, that drop doesn't happen properly, and the kidneys absorb hours of sustained higher pressure that slowly damages the delicate filtering vessels. Year after year, even when daytime readings look fine, research published in PMC confirms that melatonin, serotonin, tryptophan, and phytochemicals in tart cherries may improve sleep quality by reducing inflammation and oxidative stress, with evidence that these compounds help regulate both NREM and REM sleep stages. A pilot study indexed in PMC, specifically studying older adults with insomnia, found that Montmorency tart cherry juice produced significant reductions in insomnia severity compared to placebo, with effect sizes comparable to or exceeding those of valerian and low-dose melatonin, 2 of the most widely used natural sleep interventions. A separate trial by Pigeon and colleagues at the University of Rochester reported that older adults with chronic insomnia slept roughly 84 minutes longer per night after 2 weeks of twice-daily tart cherry juice compared to a placebo period. That is a meaningful change at any age, and especially for kidney patients whose blood pressure depends on that dip holding during sleep. Better sleep means better nocturnal blood pressure control, which means less overnight pressure stress on the filtering vessels of the kidney. That chain of benefit is real, and it's documented in the human literature, not in folklore. What to do? 1/2 to 1 cup of tart cherries, or 4 to 8 ounces of unsweetened tart cherry juice, 30 to 60 minutes before bed. Choose the sour or Montmorency variety specifically. Sweet cherries are classified as a high potassium fruit, with more than 200 milligrams per 3.5 ounces, and are a different consideration entirely. If you opt for the juice, read the label. Many commercial tart cherry juices blend in apple or grape juice to soften the tartness, which adds sugar and shifts the kidney math. Look for bottles that list Montmorency cherry as the only fruit ingredient. Bedtime fruit number 2, blueberries. The second fruit is one of the most well-researched superfoods in all of modern nutrition, and it happens to be ideal for kidneys specifically. According to the National Kidney Foundation, blueberries are a good source of fiber, vitamin C, vitamin K, and antioxidants. A 1/2 cup serving has less than 150 milligrams of potassium, making them a low potassium choice. They are also low in sodium and phosphorus, making them suitable for a kidney-friendly diet. They are safe to eat for all stages of kidney disease and for all dialysis types. The specific compounds that make blueberries valuable for kidneys are their anthocyanins, the same anti-inflammatory polyphenols we discussed in tart cherries, but in different proportions and through slightly different mechanisms. Anthocyanins are the deep blue pigments found in the skin of the berry, and they have been shown in clinical studies to reduce markers of inflammation, including CRP and IL-6, both of which tend to run elevated in chronic kidney disease. Research published in PMC has found that consumption of 3 servings per week of blueberries or strawberries is associated with meaningful reductions in cardiovascular disease risk through anthocyanin mechanisms. This is relevant to kidney health because cardiovascular disease and kidney disease share the same inflammatory pathway and frequently progress together. So a food that lowers one often lowers the other almost automatically. For adults over 60, this overlapping benefit matters enormously. Protecting kidney health and protecting heart health from the same dietary addition without adding potassium burden is exactly the kind of efficiency a kidney-friendly eating plan is built for. What to do? A 1/2 cup of blueberries is a perfect bedtime portion, enough to deliver real anthocyanin benefit without adding a significant potassium load. Fresh, frozen, and freeze-dried options all preserve their antioxidant content well. Frozen blueberries, in particular, can be eaten slowly and feel like a small treat without any added sugar. If you buy them plain and unsweetened, their low potassium load and their ability to be eaten slowly over several minutes make them a near-ideal evening snack. Bedtime fruit number 3. Strawberries, the third fruit, is one of the sweetest natural options on this entire list, and one of the most kidney-compatible. According to the National Kidney Foundation, strawberries are a good source of vitamin C, manganese, folate, and antioxidants. They are very low in calories, roughly 28 calories per 1/2 cup. And strawberries are a low-potassium food containing only 130 milligrams per 1/2 cup. They are also low in sodium and phosphorus, making them a good choice for all stages of chronic kidney disease, including hemodialysis and peritoneal dialysis. 130 milligrams of potassium per 1/2 cup is one of the lowest figures of any fruit, making strawberries one of the safest choices, even for people with more advanced kidney disease who are on strict potassium limits. A clinical study published in PMC found that dietary strawberry supplementation produced significant increases in plasma antioxidant capacity and glutathione levels compared to controls, markers of reduced oxidative stress, the same cellular wear that directly drives chronic kidney disease progression. Glutathione is the body's master antioxidant, and bumping it up through diet rather than through supplementation is a quietly powerful move for overnight recovery. At night specifically, strawberries also deliver natural melatonin precursors and tryptophan, though not at the concentrated level of tart cherries. Enough to contribute to a relaxed sleep-supportive effect when paired with a few cherries or a small handful of walnuts for fat. What to do? 1/2 cup of fresh or frozen strawberries, kept whole and rinsed just before eating to maximize freshness and vitamin C retention. For a more satisfying bedtime option, pair them with a small amount of unsweetened plain yogurt for a complete kidney-friendly evening snack that adds protein and probiotics without adding meaningful potassium. Bedtime fruit number 4. Apples, the fourth fruit, is the most universally available kidney-friendly fruit in the world, and arguably the most underestimated in the kidney literature. According to the National Kidney Foundation, apples are rich in antioxidants and fiber and are low in potassium, phosphorus, and sodium, making them an excellent kidney-friendly diet choice. Eating the peel gives you 2 to 6 times the antioxidant power of eating the flesh alone. Apples are a good source of vitamin C and may help control blood sugar when chosen over fruit juices. They are safe to eat for all kidney conditions and treatments. The DaVita Kidney Care database lists a medium apple at roughly 195 milligrams of potassium with 4 grams of fiber, a solid fiber-to-potassium ratio that holds up well for evening use. For adults over 60 managing both kidney disease and blood sugar, an extremely common combination, the blood sugar stabilizing effect of a whole apple at bedtime has genuine practical value. The fiber in the apple slows glucose absorption, reducing the overnight blood sugar fluctuation that can complicate kidney function. There's also a specific kidney stone connection worth knowing. The NIDDK notes that adequate hydration and dietary management, including citrate-containing foods, helps prevent the most common type of kidney stone, calcium oxalate. Apples contain malic acid, a compound related to citrate metabolism in the body, and may contribute to a more alkaline urine environment, which is generally more protective against stone formation than highly acidic urine. Stone formers should know that apple juice has been studied as supportive in some citrate replacement protocols for this reason. One important detail that varies by apple type. A Red Delicious or Gala tends to run a touch lower on the potassium scale than a Granny Smith, while the antioxidants are concentrated heavily in the peel regardless of variety. So always go with the peel on, and pick whichever variety you enjoy most. Variety here helps with consistency rather than with any single bioflavonoid edge. What to do? 1 medium apple, peel on, eaten slowly as part of your evening routine. The peel is where most of the antioxidant and fiber benefit lies, so peeling removes the majority of what makes it valuable. Pair with a small pinch of Ceylon cinnamon if you enjoy it. Ceylon cinnamon specifically adds a blood sugar stabilizing benefit that stacks with the apple's own fiber effect, and unlike cassia cinnamon, it contains only negligible coumarin, which matters for anyone planning to take it nightly over months. Coumarin can be liver stressing at daily doses when accumulated from cassia over long periods. Bedtime fruit number 5. Grapes, the fifth fruit, is one that many people with kidney disease are surprised to learn is actually considered kidney-friendly. The National Kidney Foundation specifically classifies grapes as a low-potassium fruit choice in their potassium guide, grouping them alongside apples, blueberries, cranberries, pears, pineapple, raspberries, and strawberries as lower potassium options, compared to bananas, melons, oranges, and kiwi at the high end. The same NKF potassium guide lists 10 small grapes at roughly 94 milligrams of potassium, one of the lowest per fruit counts in any category. The compound that makes grapes particularly notable is resveratrol, a polyphenol heavily concentrated in the skin of red and purple grapes, alongside the flavonoids that give them their deep coloring. The National Kidney Foundation highlights that the red pigmentation in grapes comes from flavonoids that may help reduce the risk of blood clots, a relevant benefit for kidney patients, who are at higher cardiovascular risk than the general population. Resveratrol's broader profile, described in PMC-indexed reviews, includes antioxidant activity, modulation of inflammatory pathways, and effects on lipid metabolism that are particularly relevant to the heart and kidney axis most older adults with CKD are also managing. Grapes can even be frozen and eaten as a thirst-quenching measure for patients on fluid restriction. That last point is specifically practical. Many kidney disease patients are on fluid restrictions, and finding a satisfying, cool, hydrating snack that doesn't add a significant fluid burden can be genuinely difficult. Frozen grapes solve that problem elegantly. They take longer to eat, feel cooling in the mouth, and deliver real antioxidant benefit without the fluid volume that a glass of water or juice would add. What to do? A small handful of red or purple grapes, roughly half a cup or about 10 medium grapes, as a bedtime snack. If you are on a fluid restriction, freeze them first and eat them slowly. Red and purple varieties consistently deliver more resveratrol and anthocyanin benefit than green grapes, which contain much smaller amounts of these polyphenols. Green grapes are still fine, just nutritionally a step behind the red and purple varieties for this specific purpose. Bedtime fruit number 6. Raspberries, the sixth fruit, might be the highest fiber option on this entire list for its size, and fiber turns out to matter more for kidney health than most people realize. Raspberries are specifically listed by the National Kidney Foundation as a low-potassium fruit choice in their Potassium Dietary Guide for CKD patients, alongside blueberries, strawberries, and grapes. Half a cup of raspberries contains roughly 4 grams of fiber, comfortably more than you'd get from most other fruits in the same serving size. That fiber content matters for kidney health through two distinct pathways. First, fiber feeds beneficial gut bacteria, which in turn produce short-chain fatty acids, including butyrate, that reduce systemic inflammation. That same chronic inflammation is what drives kidney disease progression. A healthier gut microbiome is increasingly recognized in kidney research as directly connected to slower CKD progression, and the fiber butyrate pathway is one of the most consistent findings in the recent literature. Second, fiber slows the absorption of all nutrients consumed alongside it, including phosphorus from other foods in your evening meal. Since phosphorus management is one of the core challenges in kidney disease diet, a fiber-rich fruit eaten alongside, or shortly after, dinner creates a mild but meaningful damping effect on post-meal phosphorus absorption. The phosphorus in fiber-bound plant foods is generally less bioavailable to begin with, and the extra fiber slows transit time and reduces peak absorption. What to do? Half a cup of fresh or frozen raspberries as a bedtime snack. Frozen raspberries are often more affordable than fresh, and nutritionally they're just as complete. The freezing process actually preserves anthocyanin content remarkably well, sometimes better than refrigerated fresh berries that have spent days in transit. Mix a small portion with tart cherries for a bedtime berry combination that stacks multiple kidney-supportive benefits together and softens the tartness of the cherries nicely. Bedtime fruit number 7, pineapple. The seventh fruit surprises people most often because it's acidic, tropical, and doesn't fit the typical image of a kidney-protective food, yet the clinical guidance supports it. Clinical nutritional guidance for kidney disease patients, also referenced in NIH-published materials, specifically includes pineapple as a recommended low-potassium fruit, with one serving equaling half a cup of chunks or one small portion of fresh fruit. The National Kidney Foundation's Potassium Guide for CKD patients classifies pineapple as a low-potassium choice, making it one of the safer tropical fruit options for people who need to manage their potassium intake. Kidney Nutrition Institute. Org cites roughly 178 milligrams of potassium per cup of fresh, with Davida listing the half-cup frozen or canned figure closer to 110 to 130 milligrams. What makes pineapple particularly interesting for kidney health is bromelain, a natural enzyme found concentrated in fresh pineapple, especially the core, that has documented anti-inflammatory properties. Bromelain has been studied for its potential to reduce inflammatory markers, and since kidney disease progression is driven heavily by chronic inflammation, any natural anti-inflammatory that fits within a kidney-friendly nutritional profile is worth knowing about. There's also a practical sleep connection. Fresh pineapple contains tryptophan, the same amino acid precursor to serotonin and melatonin that contributes to a more relaxed, sleepy state when consumed in the evening. It's not a sedative effect, but it contributes to a more natural winding-down pattern when eaten as part of an evening routine. And unlike the tryptophan in turkey, the tryptophan here arrives in a fruit that doubles as a kidney-friendly choice. What to do? Half a cup of fresh pineapple, chunks or spears, as a light evening snack. Fresh pineapple retains significantly more bromelain activity than canned pineapple, which is typically heat-processed in a way that destroys most of the enzyme content. Choose fresh whenever possible for the anti-inflammatory benefit. Reserve canned pineapple for occasions when convenience has to outweigh bromelain. If you're buying fresh, look for a slightly firm base and a sweet smell at the bottom. Those correlate well with ripeness and bromelain retention. Bedtime fruit number 8, cranberries. The one with a catch. This is the one I asked you to stay for, and the catch is real. Cranberries have been associated with kidney and urinary tract health for decades, and there is genuine research behind that connection. But there are two very specific things that most videos about cranberries and kidneys get wrong, and I want to give you the accurate picture of both. The NCCIG, the National Center for Complementary and Integrative Health, part of the NIH, confirms that cranberry products may decrease the overall risk of recurrent UTI in women who have had previous UTIs, with the FDA allowing manufacturers to claim limited evidence for this benefit on product labels. The mechanism is thought to involve proanthocyanidins, called PACs, in cranberries that prevent bacteria from sticking to the bladder wall. Recent PMC-indexed Cochrane-style reviews continue to describe the evidence as modest and inconsistent across trial populations. However, cranberry products do not treat existing UTIs. The NIDDK directly states that cranberry products do not treat existing bladder or kidney infections, and that while some research suggests they may help prevent UTIs, there isn't enough evidence to consider that prevention effect definitive. So the honest picture on cranberries is this: the UTI prevention benefit is real but modest and applies specifically to certain populations, mainly women with a documented history of recurrent UTIs. It is not a treatment for an active infection, and the evidence is described as inconsistent even for prevention. The clinical standard, which I want to be clear about, is still antibiotic treatment for any confirmed infection, full stop. Now, here is the catch specific to kidney health. And this is the part almost no other video covers. Rot cranberries are extremely tart and rarely eaten plain. Cranberry products marketed for health, juice cocktails, sweetened dried cranberries, flavored cranberry supplements, often contain very high amounts of added sugar. The National Kidney Foundation specifically warns that sugar-sweetened beverages are linked to increased kidney disease risk and a faster decline in people who already have CKD. A cranberry juice cocktail marketed as good for your kidneys can simultaneously contain enough added sugar to actively work against them. Sugar-sweetened cranberry juice cocktails typically deliver 25 to 30 grams of added sugar per cup, roughly the same as a soft drink. The benefit lives in the unsweetened whole cranberry form, not in the sweetened products that most people actually buy. One more caution. The NCCIH notes that there is conflicting evidence about whether cranberry interacts with the anticoagulant warfarin. Clinical literature, including a 2021 evaluation published via Theme Connect, identifies warfarin interaction and potential kidney stone risk as the two main monitoring concerns with chronic cranberry use. If you take a blood thinner, mention cranberry use to your pharmacist or prescribing clinician before making it a daily habit. Even small daily cranberry amounts can, in some individuals, modestly affect INR and require closer monitoring. That's not a theoretical risk, it's a labeled one. What to do if you use cranberries for kidney health? Choose unsweetened 100% cranberry juice, which is genuinely difficult to drink straight but can be diluted with water, or unsweetened dried cranberries in small portions, or raw or frozen whole cranberries blended into homemade sauces. Avoid cranberry juice cocktails and sweetened cranberry supplements marketed specifically as urinary health. And if you suspect you have an active UTI or kidney infection, see a clinician. Cranberries do not treat infections, and delaying antibiotic care to rely on cranberry alone is a real and well-documented clinical risk, particularly in older adults where UTIs can progress to pyelonephritis quickly. The bedtime kidney tonic that is all 8 fruits. Now let me give you a simple combination you can put together tonight. Take a small bowl and combine half a cup of tart cherries, a small handful of blueberries, and 3 to 4 fresh strawberries. That single bowl delivers phytomelatonin for sleep and nocturnal blood pressure support, anthocyanins for anti-inflammatory kidney protection, vitamin C for immune and tissue health, and fiber for gut microbiome support and gentle phosphorus moderation. And at this portion size, it is low enough in potassium to be suitable on most kidney disease eating plans. No supplements, no prescriptions, no complicated preparation. Just 3 kidney-verified fruits in a bowl, eaten 30 to 60 minutes before bed while you wind down. If you want to add a liquid component, a small glass of unsweetened tart cherry juice, alongside this combination, is the closest thing to a genuinely research-backed kidney bedtime tonic you can assemble from whole food sources. For a slightly sweeter note, a splash of unsweetened cranberry juice over the berry mix adds the pack benefit we just discussed without the sugar load of a cocktail. When to call your doctor, every fruit on this list is classified as kidney-friendly by the National Kidney Foundation in general terms, but general terms are not individual terms. If you are at an advanced stage of chronic kidney disease, stage 4 or stage 5, your potassium and phosphorus limits may be strict enough that even low potassium fruits need to be carefully counted within a specific daily budget. Your kidney dietitian, not a generalist dietitian, is the right person to tell you exactly how much of any of these 8 fruits fits your individual dietary prescription, because lab values that look stable month to month can change quickly under dietary pressure. The National Kidney Foundation specifically notes that in the early stages of kidney disease, there is usually no need to limit potassium unless your blood levels are already elevated. But in later stages, or in complete kidney failure, a doctor or kidney dietitian may recommend stricter limits based on your latest labs. If you have not had a kidney function test recently and you are over 60, that baseline is worth requesting at your next appointment. A basic metabolic panel includes creatinine, eGFR, and electrolytes, including potassium. Those 4 numbers together give a clear starting picture of where your kidneys stand today. You cannot make informed dietary choices for your kidneys without knowing those numbers, and you cannot track whether the choices you're making are actually helping without rechecking them on a sensible schedule, typically every 3 to 6 months once you're in a kidney-aware eating pattern. The Carol case. Let me tell you about a patient I'll call Carol. She was 72 years old, managing stage 2 chronic kidney disease with a secondary concern of poor sleep and frequent recurrent UTIs. When we reviewed her diet together, she had cut out almost all fruit, driven by a reasonable but over-applied fear that fruit meant potassium, and potassium meant risk. What she had actually done, without realizing it, was eliminate the primary source of antioxidants, anti-inflammatory compounds, and sleep-supportive nutrients from her evening routine. She was eating a careful kidney diet, but a defensive and joyless one, and she wasn't sleeping any better, and the UTIs were still coming. We rebuilt her evening fruit intake together, guided by the NKF's kidney-friendly fruit list. Tart cherries before bed for sleep and overnight blood pressure support. Blueberries and strawberries for antioxidant coverage. Unsweetened whole cranberries 3 times a week for UTI prevention support. Within 6 weeks, her sleep had improved noticeably. She described it as the first time in years that she'd felt like she was sleeping rather than just lying in bed. Her UTI, which had been occurring almost monthly, had not recurred in 2 months, and at her quarterly kidney function check, her markers had remained stable. A realistic near-term goal at stage 2, and importantly, no worse than the markers she'd been getting on her previous restrictive pattern. She told me at her next visit that the biggest surprise was how satisfying the bedtime fruit routine had become. It felt like something she was adding to her health rather than another thing to restrict. And that shift in mindset, from defensive avoidance to active addition, made it far easier to maintain than any purely restrictive dietary change she had tried before. Everything in this video is educational information, based on published research and National Kidney Foundation guidance, not personalized medical advice. No dietary change described here should replace your kidney dietitian's individualized recommendations. If you have advanced chronic kidney disease, are on dialysis, take blood thinners, or have been given specific dietary restrictions by your healthcare provider, always confirm any new food addition with your care team before making it a regular habit. Your action plan. What to do tonight. 1. Tart cherries. Half to 1 cup of the sour Montmorency variety or 4 to 8 ounces of unsweetened tart cherry juice, 30 to 60 minutes before bed. 2. Blueberries. Half a cup, fresh or frozen as a bedtime snack. 3. Strawberries. Half a cup, around 130 milligrams of potassium per serving, safe across all CKD stages. 4. Apple. 1 medium, peel on for fiber, blood sugar stabilization, and antioxidants. Dust with a pinch of Ceylon cinnamon if you like. 5. Grapes. A small handful of red or purple variety, or freeze them first if you are on a fluid restriction. 6. Raspberries. Half a cup, the highest fiber fruit on this list, with gut microbiome and anti-inflammatory benefits. 7. Pineapple. Half a cup, fresh only, not canned, for the bromelain anti-inflammatory benefit. 8. Cranberries, unsweetened only, for UTI prevention support. Check with your pharmacist or clinician if you are on warfarin. Build a simple bedtime bowl, starting with fruits 1, 2, and 3 tonight. Introduce the others one at a time over the following week, so you can notice how your body responds and how your sleep changes. If any of them leaves you feeling bloated, restless, or with morning blood sugar swings that don't match your usual pattern, drop that fruit from your evenings and check in with your care team. Individual responses to even kidney-friendly fruits do vary, particularly with concurrent diabetes medications. What's next if you are going to make the bedtime kidney bowl tonight? Tell me in the comments which 3 fruits you are starting with, and whether you're pairing the bowl with a small glass of tart cherry juice. I read every single one. If this kind of real, sourced information is what you want more of, subscribe. New videos every week covering what the research actually says about kidney health and healthy aging after 60. My next video covers the 5 everyday drinks that are quietly raising your creatinine, including one that's marketed specifically as a health drink, and one that the majority of kidney-conscious adults still drink without realizing its impact. I'll see you there.